All right, so here is your Socratic Seminar participation guidelines. We will be doing a Socratic Seminar today, and I want you to really take your time to really plan out what you are writing in your Socratic Seminar, because the only way that you will be able to get the most out of this is if you really put in all your effort, okay? All right, so this is the Google Classroom edition. I want to go over it again before we begin our Socratic Seminar today. So 1, please prepare for the Socratic Seminar by reviewing text, classwork, notes, and any resources or graphics that will help you discuss the prompt. It's super duper important that you understand the book that we are going to be basing our discussion off of, and that is The Keeping Quilt. And so you can reread that book if you'd like. The PDF is in Google Classroom, or you can refer back to old videos if you want to re-listen to the read aloud or any notes that we took about the Keeping Quilt and traditions and loan words and things like that. That'll help you answer the question today. All right, number 2, write at least once in response to the prompt. So you need to answer the question, should traditions change? So you need to make sure that you answer the question yourself and submit it, and your classmates will be able to read your post. Okay, so please make sure you don't write just one word. You need to write 2 to 3 sentences at least to get full credit. But that's not all. Number 3 is reading your classmates' posts carefully, and 4 is responding at least once. So you need to make sure that you are actively discussing or actively reading your classmates' answers, okay? That doesn't matter if you are in 324 or 322. You need to be reading everyone's posts on the Socratic Seminar, okay? Because if we were in school, right, we would be sitting in a circle and we would all have our eyes on the speaker. One student would only be speaking at a time, right? But because we're doing this online, I want you to make sure that you are reading everyone's carefully written response, and that'll be kind of like as if you were listening to them speak, okay? Then number 5, ask questions. Please make sure to do this in a respectful way. 6, stay on topic. You know, the topic is, should traditions change? So it should be, your response and questions should be about traditions, right? It shouldn't be about what you ate for dinner last night, right? Or what time you woke up this morning. All right. And then 7, agreeing and disagreeing respectfully. So I'm going to have sentence starters again on the page, on the Socratic Seminar page, so that you can refer to those sentence starters to help you organize your thinking of how do I agree and how do I disagree with my classmate without hurting their feelings, okay? Ways to participate in a Socratic Seminar. You need to take a risk, right? Expand your thinking. Don't just take 10 seconds to just write down what first comes to mind. I want you to think about, should traditions change? I want you to think about that question for a good minute without writing anything down. And I want you to ask yourself, what does that mean? Right? And what do I really, really think inside? 2, ask a question, ask a follow-up question, practice active listening. You are doing this by reading your classmates' posts. Provide evidence. This is great by including evidence from the Keeping Quilt. I will allow you to provide some evidence from other texts we've read that might include traditions that have also changed from back then to now. And stay focused and have fun. So these are the directions and ways to participate in your Socratic Seminar. So please, please, please take this seriously. And now I will read you the. So here's your Socratic Seminar question right here. Should traditions change? All right. So some additional questions to ask yourself before you answer should traditions change is, how did wedding traditions in the Keeping Quilt change over time? And actually this one I'm going to help you out a little bit. I'm going to show you, or we're going to read through parts of the book, and I'm going to point out wedding traditions that have changed, okay? So we start from Anna's time, right, or Anna's mother's time, all the way to Patricia's time, right? I'm going to show you exactly how those wedding traditions changed, so you can see how the traditions changed over time. Using an example from the keeping quilt, explain how life in the United States would be different if traditions never changed. Using an example from the keeping quilt, explain how life in the United States would be different if people didn't change their traditions at all. Okay. And then other sentence starters that you can use in addition to, should traditions change? Yes or no? You can also say, it can be good for traditions to change if blank. So give a reason for why traditions should change. Woo! It is important for traditions to stay the same because blank. And then traditions should change over time because blank. Okay. And then here at the bottom, we have agreeing and disagreeing respectfully sentence starters. I agree with blank. Put that student's name because blank your opinion. Then I hear what you are saying, blank, student's name, but I disagree because blank your opinion. All right. So you will only get full credit if you, 1, answer the question with at least 2 to 3 sentences, and 2, make sure you respond to someone else. You need to respond to at least one other person. Agree, disagree, or ask them a clarifying question. All right. So again, I want you to look specifically for wedding traditions, okay? So take a look at this page. This is Anna and great-grandpa Sasha. To show he wanted to be her husband, he gave Anna a gold coin, a dried flower, and a piece of rock salt, all tied into a linen handkerchief. The gold was for wealth, the flower for love, and the salt so their lives would have flavor. She accepted the hanky, and they were engaged. So, again, notice that he gave a gold coin, a dried flower, and a rock salt, and they all meant something. Okay. So under the wedding huppah, notice the quilt is being used as a huppah, the canopy over, right? Anna and Sasha promised each other love and understanding. After the wedding, the men and women celebrated separately. So again, the men and women celebrated separately. So this is when Anna and Sasha, great-grandpa Sasha, got married. Okay. Then, so this is Carl's wedding to Grandpa George, so Anna's daughter, Carl. Okay, so men and women celebrated together, but they still did not dance together. So it was tradition for men and women they were able to celebrate together, but they still could not dance together, right? And in Carl's wedding bouquet was a gold coin, bread, and salt. So again, notice what is being given in the wedding. Okay, and also notice that the quilt is also being used as the huppah. Now for our next wedding. So when she became a bride, this is Mary Ellen, the quilt became her huppah, right? For the first time, friends who were not Jews came to the wedding. My mother wore a suit, but in her bouquet were gold, bread, and salt. So what do you see again is repeated, a tradition that is repeated from generation to generation. And what has changed now? For the first time, friends who were not Jews came to the wedding. That means that the previous weddings and the previous generations, only Jewish people were allowed to be at the wedding to celebrate. Okay? And then moving on to Patricia. So again, at my wedding to Enzo Mario, men and women danced together. So again, is a tradition changing? Now men and women are able to dance together. In my bouquet were gold, bread, and salt, and a sprinkle of wine, so I would always know laughter. So again, thinking about should traditions change, right? There is a tradition that changes throughout the different generations in the keeping quilt, and there are also traditions that stay the same. But I want you to pick from your own opinion, do you think traditions should change or should they not? Right? And you see here that the quilt is again used as the hapa. All right, so that is some additional or breakdown of the keeping quilt. Hopefully it will help you answer your Socratic seminar question. All right, so here is your last question set for Module 3. So please, as it is the last one, I want you to really take your time to do your best to pick the best answer choice. And so please follow along as I read aloud for you. And I want to emphasize again, please, please, please make sure you're following along on the video screen. And if you can't see, I'll do my best. I'll actually zoom in today so that you can look at it on the video. Or you can also have this video playing and you can go to the question set and follow along on the actual question set. All right. So if you are doing that, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to go back to that tab so you can keep the video playing and you can click on the question set and follow along there. All right, so the directions say read pages 22 to 24 of The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco, beginning with When Mary Ellen Left Home and ending with Into the World. Then read pages 28 to 30, beginning with At My Wedding to Enzo Mario and ending with She Will Take the Quilt with Her. Then answer each item. Okay, so here we have page 22. When Mary Ellen left home, she took the quilt with her. When she became a bride, the quilt became her huppah. For the first time, friends who were not Jews came to the wedding. My mother wore a suit, but in her bouquet were gold, bread, and salt. The quilt welcomed me, Patricia, into the world. Then, skipping to page 28. At my wedding to Enzo Mario, men and women danced together. In my bouquet were gold, bread, and salt, and a sprinkle of wine, so I would always know laughter. Then page 29, and finally page 30. 20 years ago, I held Tracy Denise in the quilt for the first time. Someday she too will leave home, and she will take the quilt with her. Okay. Number 1. According to these passages, what did Mary Ellen and Patricia both do? A. They both wrapped their babies in the keeping quilt. B. They both had wine in their bouquets when they married. C. They both wore a suit at their weddings. Or D. They both invited only Jewish guests to their wedding. Number 2. Which question does the text answer on page 23? So for this question, you should scroll back up to page 23, which is the second image here, starting with when she became a bride, okay, to answer that question. So let's read that question. So which question does the text answer on page 23? A, in what year was Mary Ellen's wedding? B, how was Mary Ellen's wedding different from the weddings that came before? C, how did Mary Ellen feel about having friends at her wedding? Or D, why did Mary Ellen wear a suit instead of a dress when she got married? Okay, so which question does the text answer on page 23? And our last question today, which statement best expresses the central message of the keeping quilt based on these passages? So again, remembering that the central message is what the author is trying to teach you. What do you think Patricia Polacco is trying to teach you based on these passages that we just reread for this question set? A, babies bring fresh hope to their parents and grandparents. B, weddings bring families and friends together despite differences. C, traditions keep families connected to those who came before them. D, the roles of men and women differ in every family. Okay, so which of these best expresses the central message of the keeping quilt based on our pages 22 to 24 and 28 to 30? All right, good luck and take your time, please. Alright, so here's your classwork for today. It's a bit shorter because I want you to focus on your Socratic seminar, but we need to answer our content framing question, which is, what is the central message in the keeping quilt? So that's what you need to answer in this box right here. I want you to write 2 to 3 sentences that explain the central message, and use text evidence from the keeping quilt. Use specific quotes from Patricia Polacco to support what you think the lesson that she is trying to teach you. Some keywords that you can include in your response include traditions and culture. All right. So now this is the last part of today's classwork, which is a narrative writing piece. So this is not just a random new writing prompt. This is referring back to the illustration of Coming to America, where you were supposed to pick a character from the illustration and also write dialogue yesterday. So now I want you to include that dialogue here, but instead I want you to write a beginning, middle, and end to your story. So now you're going to write your story from beginning to the end. What's happening in your story between the characters? What does the character want? What are the events that are taking place? What are the characters doing? And make it interesting, okay? I want you to make it interesting by including maybe an interesting hook, like the hooks that we've written in the past module, as well as including a lot of details, using detail words, and possibly some loan words if you like to try to include some of those. You can also include time order linking words and phrases. So I'm going to attach that as well, the graphic to this assignment, so that you can refer to that as you're describing events. But again, I want you to make it as interesting as possible. So don't just list first, then next, events in that order, but really go into detail. What's happening? What are the smells that the characters are smelling? Or what are they feeling? What are they hearing? So try to include as many of those details as possible. And if you'd like to also refer back to escape, all the different parts of the narrative writing that make it interesting, you can also refer back to that. I'll also link that here to the video. So yeah, please do your best. This should be kind of like when you used to write more fiction pieces in second grade, when you would explode a moment, or just build off of one scene and make your own story. Think about it like that. It's a lot of using your imagination, but now we want to make it realistic fiction, just like Alan Say and Patricia Polacco, right? So we want the story to be made up, but include real facts and real experiences that now we have learned from all of our texts and passages that we've read so far to help us write an experience that an immigrant could have gone through. Okay, so again, thinking about the keeping quilt, tea with milk, grandfather's journey, parts of family pictures, as well as Coming to America, as well as all the audio interviews, the photographs, the Statue of Liberty. Thinking about all those elements that we've discussed so far, I want you to write with description, with details, and make it interesting for your narrative writing piece. All right? And that's it for today.